What up guys, your boy Carlos, and we're back with another one. Now today we're playing with my all-time favorite, the Barbarian. I feel like the Barbarian is one of the strongest classes in the game and has been since Diablo 2. Now to most of you that's been playing the beta, you probably feel like the Barbarian doesn't do much damage. That's because this class is very gear dependent and then become insanely strong towards the end of the game, especially if you have the right build. Now most of the things we're going over is probably subject to change due to this is a beta, so they could nerf and or buff certain skills I'm going to go over. Let's go ahead and get into it guys. Alright guys, starting off I took Flay. I feel like Flay is the best basic skill. In my opinion, you can go whatever you want, but I feel like it's really good to use to be able to kite enemies, especially if you don't have any fury. You can definitely run around and just kite the whole time, and it does really good damage. On top of the bleeding damage or the dot, you also have 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable, but what that does is allows you to do 20% more damage for 2 seconds as long as the enemy is vulnerable. And going into the perks, we went into Combat Flay. Combat Flay is the better one in my opinion because you get 12% damage reduction and 168 thorns, and what thorns does allows you to reflect and do damage back to targets you're not even attacking. Now to be able to get that, you have to stack it up 4 times, and that's what brings us into our next, which is the Whirlwind. Instead of taking Violent Whirlwind, we went ahead and took Furious Whirlwind because Violent Whirlwind needs 2 seconds of channeling or charging to be able to work, and we're going to have to cancel that every 3 seconds to be able to reapply Flay to be able to get our stacks to do what we want. So we took Furious Whirlwind, which allows us to inflict 20% of its base damage as bleeding over the next 5 seconds, which just pairs nicely with Flay. Now I definitely put 2 points into this, but I only put 4 points into Whirlwind, and that's because I have a piece of gear that allows me to get 1 more point into Whirlwind. So if you can, definitely put 5 points in the Whirlwind. You don't really need the 2 points. I just put it in there just to be putting it in there. Now moving down, we took Rallying Cry. I feel like Rallying Cry is the best for what we're running. We took Tactical Rallying Cry. What this does allows us to have 30% more movement speed and 50% more generation, and on top of that it makes us unstoppable, which means that we're CC immune. And the path that we took, which is the tactical, it allows us to also get another 50% resource generation, so we're at 100% resource generation anytime that we have Rallying Cry up. Moving down to the next, we took War Cry. This is where a lot of our damage is going to come from. War Cry allows us to go berserking for 4 seconds, and if you don't know what berserking does, it grants you 25% increased damage and 15 increased movement speed. On top of that, we have another 30% damage anytime that there's 6 or more enemies around, which makes us very, very strong. I also put points in the Booming Voice just to allow for these buffs to last 30% longer. I put 2 points in the Swiftness just because I feel like the Barb needs to be moving faster. You don't have to put these points in here. If you want, you can move them up to Outburst to have more thorns so you can reflect more damage, or you can move them here just to have more health overall. These don't need to be here. If you want to put them here, put them here. If not, put them somewhere else. Moving down, I definitely took Death Blow. Now Death Blow can definitely disrupt your spin the wind movement, but it's definitely worth to do it just because it is an execute that you can start executing enemies. It depends on the enemy honestly, but you can execute enemies from like 50% health and lower. A lot of the enemies that you're going to be fighting, it's usually around 40 or 30%, and then bosses that's usually around like 15%, but this execute is really good. If you do execute and do it correctly, it constantly resets itself. And as you can see, we took the Warrior's Death Blow, which allows us to gain berserking for 3 seconds anytime we do hit anybody with this, so that's just 25% more damage and 15% more movement speed. And then finally we went the path of Wrath of the Berserker as our ultimate, and I feel like this is the best ultimate for Whirlwind Barb just because it gives you berserking, unstoppable, and it constantly gives us fury. You know, when we spend fury, we get more damage, 25% more damage to be exact, and the Wrath of Berserker, you gain 20% increased movement speed and another 30% fury generation. This is just a really strong way to play. If you want, you can go Call of the Ancients, but I would not suggest it. I would definitely run a Wrath of the Berserker. Let's go ahead and get into the armor, guys. Alright guys, I'm just going to briefly go over the armor and show you the passives that matter, then at the end I'll show you all of them. So starting off, direct damage against bleeding enemies has a 32% chance to stun them for 2 seconds, and then we couple that with stunning a bleeding enemy deals 72% of their total bleeding amount to them as physical damage. You mix that with these two right here. So if you're going to run Whirlwind, you need these. Damaging enemies with Leap, Upheaval, or Whirlwind has 45% chance to summon an ancient to perform the same skill, which is really nice. And on top of that, Whirlwind leaves behind Dust Devils that deal 166 damage to surrounding enemies. Now that damage can go up. I have had some bad luck on the weapons, obviously not because I'm in full legendaries, but you can have that scale up a lot higher and be like, I've seen 282 on an item, but it wasn't beneficial to me. Now I'll just briefly show you everything that I'm running so you can get a taste of what the overall build is. I just wanted to focus on the ones that really mattered. You can pause this at any time and see exactly what I'm running. I wouldn't worry too much about the rings. The rings aren't that great. I really haven't found great jewelry. And then the weapons, these are weapons that I swap in and out constantly to see if I'm going to get more damage or not. Doesn't matter, because at the end of this, they're going to delete all my stuff. So, you know, it is what it is. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a boss fight and show you what this thing can do with single target. Alright, here we go. I'm just going to show you how this works. Put a hit on him. Keep our dots up. As you see down the bottom right, we have 4 stacks. Right? Just going to put our buffs on. And every time I'm done spinning, I hit him again. Big buff. You can see I'm just spinning a little bit and then hitting again to reapply. Got me stunned there, it's fine. Shouts back up. I'm gonna hit him with the execute. Boom. And that's single target damage. It's not crazy. This is more of like a mob sweeper, but it's still, with the way that we have the build set up, you can still do quite a bit of damage to single target bosses. Alright guys, that pretty much sums it up. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps this channel out a lot and helps me out a lot. Probably do the rogue next weekend. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just make, like, there's 2 more builds I can do with the barbarian, so I may do those. Anyways, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the future. Later guys.